So here we want to aggregate the counties. Remember, if you remember the county data, we have every row is a county, and we have the postal code. The postal code is the state code, and we changed that up above. So also we want to make sure that both state name and state code are normalized with all the same names. And what we want to do is, from this data, we want to create state poverty measures, not just from the county. So how do we do that? Well, this is where the group by comes in, group by aggregation. And this is very important, and you should also take note of this and think about it, and it's going to come up over and over again. It's very important. So essentially what we want to do is we want to aggregate the data, and we want to group by state code, which is essentially the state. The state code is the state abbreviation, AL for Alabama and so on, CA for California, MI for Michigan. So we want to group by state code, and then what are we going to do with these measures? Well, we have to know what we're going to do with each of these measures. So poverty estimate is the number of people in poverty. So the actual counts of people. So here we could either get a sum, or we could get an average, a mean average. And that would make sense, both things. You can have an average number of people in poverty per state, or total number of people in poverty per state. Poverty percent, however, can we do the same? Can we sum the poverty percent in all the counties for the state? Definitely not, right? You can already see here, if you sum all the counties, there's 10, 20 counties in a state, you're going to have like 500, 300% of the population in poverty. It's because poverty is already a aggregate fraction. So we need to, we have to get an average, a mean average, or maybe a median average. You can't sum here, it's not going to make sense. Median household income is also a mean or aggregate average. So we also cannot sum this up. It's not going to make sense to sum all of these here. So we need to get another median, or maybe a mean actually kind of could make sense if you get a mean of the median household income. And to do that is actually very simple. This is why we love Python. All we need to do is, we have the county poverty data frame. We're going to use the group by function. In the group by, right after the group by, you identify what you want to group by, the column or category. Usually it's a category. We don't usually group by numbers, but it could be. And then this .agg aggregate actually lets us include multiple measures at once, which is great. Like you could use, I think we showed this in a previous maybe notebook. You can use just one, do it by one column at a time, by like this, group by postal code, and just get mean. And this gets the mean of everything in the data frame. However, that's not good, because some things we might want to sum instead of mean. So we can separate it with aggregation, open parentheses, you know it's going to be a function. And then often when we have lists of things, except when it's actually a list in Python, we often have curly brackets and then kind of these key value pairs. And what happens is is that poverty estimate is the name of our column, and sum is the function we want to do. So sum almost looks like we wrote this word here and made it up because it's in quotes, but no, actually this is the specific word of the function that the function is going to understand. So you can't just write summation or anything you want. It has to be sum if you want to sum. So poverty estimate, we're going to sum. Poverty percent, we're going to have mean. Median household income, we're going to have mean. Actually, we could also have two. We could have poverty estimate. We could do a sum and a mean for poverty estimate. That means the average number of people in poverty in that in that particular state. So we run that. You got the values here. We got a poverty estimate, poverty percent, and notice how each row now is a state. All the counties are gone. They're all aggregated. And we got the values as we wished. Notice also there's two levels here to the column, to the data frame columns, because it indexed this one column here. So sometimes this kind of can give issues. Just know that sometimes it gives like a 2-level here, and sometimes it's just a 1-level. See the difference? So for here, for this one, it doesn't give issues, but for other ones it does. Next, we're going to be talking about joining. Okay, so here we're going to join all the data into a single main data frame we've finally got here. Just double check what's going on with my data frame, state code, state pop, state GDP, state tax, state poverty. And we got rid of the county one. Now we have state poverty. We put all of that aggregation before into state poverty data frame. And here we just take a look at some of them. State taxes, kind of remember what they look like. Total taxes, looks like I adjusted the D types. Let's do a D types. State, my total tax is the one I'm going to use. It's numeric, it's integer. Double check the other, they all have the names that we want. State name, we're going to join on state name or state code. So it's important to have all of these normalized. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to do it step by step. We could do it all at once, but I want to do step by step so we see the process. So first is we're going to join between state GDP and state taxes. State GDP and state taxes. So let's take a look. State GDP. State GDP is this one. We have the state name. So we don't have state code. We just have state name. And then state taxes. Here we also have state name. And we make sure that it's all state underscore name. But I'm kind of remembering here, and if you didn't, you would get an error. Like this is the issue with the asterisk, and it has the names look fine here, but when you look behind the hood, you still got character encoding, which is not the case for others, but it's the case for somehow it's the case in this data frame. So here we try to do it. If you try to do it, well, it kind of worked because I already fixed the problem, but you would get NAs here. It would not join. It would give you a result. This would give you a result, but it would not be complete. Now let's just take a look at, before we move on, let's take a look what this function does. So the join function of Python is called merge, and it comes from pandas. So it's pd.merge, and you open parentheses, and then you put one data frame on the left and one data frame on the right. Left of means of the comma. So the one is first and one is second. The one that is first is on the left, the one that is second is on the right. And then you have a third parameter, which is what we're going to join on. So this is where we need that same, the column must have the same name. It's called state underscore name. And then how is either on the left or right or inner. Now left means that we want everything from this one here, and whatever else exists that matches on this one we'll keep. But if there's other things in state taxes that don't match anything in GDP, we won't keep. So for example, if under state taxes, we have like American Samoa and Guam, and we do not have them under state GDP, those would all stay behind and would not appear in this final join because we're just joining on left. Left is the kind of the base that we're going to join on. So that's how this works, and it's the same in other contexts like MySQL and structured query language. So, okay, so we can't do that because if we take a look at that state GDP, there was that funky characters there, but it's kind of coming up now because I cleaned it, and the way you clean it is actually very simple. You can just actually replace them like we did replace before, and there's the characters are all repeated. It's kind of a /XAO, and then the name, and then some forwards or backslash 202 something. So we just run two statements. You're just going to replace this with nothing, and then it's going to clean up the word. And the R here means literally, like replace literally this with nothing, because sometimes you can get interpreted as regex code. Regress, I don't know how to say it. I say regress, but there's no R, so reguess, regis, whatever. So R means like, no, exactly, take this and put nothing in its place. And you can do one from the first part of the word and then another one from the end part of the word. And then you can check to see if it came out, and then should work. And then, okay, and then we can actually merge, because if you run this the way from the beginning, you would say, oh, it didn't work, you get all the NA values. So here's where I'm actually going to run this merge, this join, and it should work. And then it comes up. Now we have one data frame, and notice how I put the name GDP and taxes, like a new name, new data frame, state underscore GDP, state taxes. And then it has the GDP and all the taxes. And this state underscore Y is because there's two columns with the word state. So it kind of automatically, Python gave it a different name for each. But what really matters is we're using state underscore name. This is their cleaned up one that we're merging on. So we don't really care about that. We can get rid of that later. And then we got to merge the other ones. We want to merge everything. And so what's next? How about we join it with state poverty? State poverty. Now, the thing is, state poverty, let's see if we wanted to join with state poverty. The thing is, state poverty doesn't have a state name. Okay, state poverty only has a state code. So the one that we joined here just doesn't have state code, just has state name. So first we're gonna need to join. We can't join with state poverty. We're first gonna need to join with state code. Okay. So we're gonna take the one that we did join over here, state GDP and taxes, state underscore GDP underscore taxes. We're gonna take that and join with, not with poverty because we can't, but we're going to join with codes, state codes. And then you're going to put the code here to how to join. We've already gone over it. And then you're going to have something like state GDP taxes code. And then we have population. Now we have state name and state code, so we can join with anything. So you can join with population. And then you got state GDP taxes code, poverty. Head here, poverty first, maybe. And then last, you join with state population. That's the last one. And then you get a whole big data frame with everything, GDP, taxes, and state codes, and poverty estimate, and population of the state. And notice that this works because we have every row as an individual unique state, and we can merge or join on this state. If we had one data frame of counties and stuff, we couldn't merge. It would not make sense. So note how this works and why it's possible and why we're doing it. Okay, next we're going to be talking about cleaning columns and adding some calculations. Okay.